Are the Bears Super Bowl bound now, Zach? Is that what's happening here?
Whoa. Hey, now. It's really firing off on all cylinders with this freaking second half coverage of the draft. Jesus.
Well, I got to just
I
align
ain't
with
going
Bears
there.
Twitter.
You're just getting people interested right away. That's the shocker. That's the shocking intro to kind of get people hooked.
Yeah, Bears are going to the Super Bowl. They're going to beat the Packers twice this year.
Ooh.
They're going to split with the Lions. They're going to beat the Vikings twice. It's just going to happen.
I wouldn't have thought that the more reactionary thing for me would be Green Bay, but they did split with Detroit last year. So.
Well, before we dive in, what if they just split with Green Bay? Would that be a success for us if they beat them just once?
Kind of.
Or is that a step in the right direction?
Step in the right direction. I would. Success is if you sweep your rival. That's how I view it.
And then I hope it happens in Green Bay and Caleb Williams says, "I own you," just to rile them up.
Hey, get them back. Start getting those wins back so we can take back the overall record, dude. We've lost that for a few years now. It's time to start building back towards reclaiming what's ours.
Well, I think in this draft we're taking a step in the right direction. So this is an episode where we got through the first two picks, and then now they had their other picks, and people were wondering if they would trade and move around. And I said, nah, I think they're comfortable with focusing on those first two picks. They're not going to move around anymore. They did their moves in free agency. They're just going to coast, and by God, they coasted. And I think before you look at each player, you got to give the Bears like an A in this draft. Me personally, I know some players are ranked at like B pluses, but for me, I'm like, oh, this is not for the small amount of picks that we did have, for the pieces they added in free agency, you got to give them like an A minus type of grade here, for the needs they had to address.
I think it's an A. For the talent they drafted, for the most part, it is. So definitely an A to me. I know some of the write-ups for the draft are adding in, of course, where some of the picks went with trades in that nature. And I still think even with that, like, it's still like a B plus, mostly B plus. Honestly, the only reason it gets dragged down is because you have a few 1-year rental pieces in the mix with like later round draft picks, but again, it's less likely you're going to hit on a 6th or 7th rounder anyway. So not too crazy, but plus, like we're going to talk here. There's a late round pickup the late round pickup they picked this year we really like, both of us. So
yes,
stoked to have we'll stoked to see how a secondary piece might add on as a great addition to a unit that I think doesn't always get talked about as possibly not as good as it could be. But I digress.
Right. Yeah, I didn't take into consideration all the other stuff they did, but they did the 1-year thing because I think Ryan Poles wanted to see what they would bring to the table and if they could sign them extension wise. And, those are risks you take, and they just didn't work out. If you do add all those into it, yeah, B plus, just because they just didn't pan out. They had injury problems and stuff like that. But that was just the story of the Bears last year. So it just kind of fit right in where it goes. For the Bears last year, it was like really good or really bad. There was no like in between of their play, but they had to address some needs. And so one of their big needs was either an edge rusher or an offensive lineman. And their 75th pick, they went with an offensive tackle from Yale, who also went to Hinsdale Central, which is like 20 some minutes away from where I live. And he joins Hinsdale Central Doug Kramer as well. He is on the Bears team as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Hinsdale Central people reconnecting. The write-up on, I'm not even going to pronounce his name right, so I'm just going to, Amenje. I don't even know. I'm a dumb country boy who can't pronounce names. I I like the pick. I know people say, "Well, wait a minute, he played tackle, they need a guard." Well, he's an undersized tackle, and that's kind of like his big knock. And because he didn't go to like a big time school, but I also love this pick because, like we were talking, he only went to left tackle because of the team needs, and he
Mhm.
was like, "I'll do this for you." And he played guard for his first 10 games at Yale, so he has guard experience. He has tackle experience. I know they're writing him up as like a project, and I don't think they drafted him to be like a sit for 3 years. Like, I'm not saying he's going to start right away, but I don't think that's what they drafted him for. He could go to guard. So if he's an undersized tackle, maybe he'll fit better at guard. And the biggest thing is, I know they're going to make jokes. He went to Yale. Like, he's going to be super smart coming in. Like, he's going to be able to pick up a brand new offense and everything right away, in my opinion. So it was real funny. The first 3 picks, we made a joke. We were like, "Oh, they're focused on offense." They said, "Screw defense. We're going all offense to make sure Caleb Williams is in the best situation that he can be in." Um, so I like the pick. I know some may not. They give it like a B plus rating. I'm okay with a B plus rating just because he is a little bit undersized, but he could fit right in at a guard spot and have some experienced linemen around him to help get his feet wet, and he's super smart that he should be able to pick it up. And he was a Bears fan. I mean, he went to Hinsdale Central, lived here in the suburbs. He loves the Bears. He was talking
Mhm.
about it, and so hopefully that just adds motivation for him. But I like the pick. I think that's a perfect pick for round 3.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Bears have needed line depth, at least in the interior. I know that there are people that are very on the fence about Braxton Jones, so that's kind of I've seen some reports or some reporting on this where they think it's a pick to minimum challenge Braxton Jones this offseason, and I don't know about that personally. Maybe. I mean, I thought Jones did solid still, and I think he deserves his starting spot, but there were times that you can always wish for more is the thing.
Right.
My deal is though, like I said, if there's any discussion and showing that a lineman coming in has interior experience here, and I know he ended his tenure at Yale playing tackle, and he was very effective at Yale playing tackle. Credit FCS ball, and that's going to be another thing you're going to watch for is can you make the jump is the deal. But
Right.
and this is how the pronunciation of his name is Amejaba or Amejaji. Amejaji.
Did you just
Yeah.
have a stroke?
Ame- Amegaji. That's what it is.
Um,
It's on the athletics article. That's why I'm making sure I
a
pronounce it right.
Medici?
Um, oh, of Meg,
Worcestershire sauce?
of Mega G,
A Mega G.
a Mega G. Yes, a Mega G. That's how you want to do it. That is the pronunciation I have from the Athletic.
Because
Is
I don't want to offend the guy if he ever, for some reason, stumbles upon this. I
no,
don't want to offend him.
yeah, unless the Athletic is wrong, that is how you pronounce his name. So I am going off they put the phonetic spelling of his name, Karan Omegaji. That's what
A
it is.
Mega G. A
Yeah,
Mega G.
yeah,
Worcestershire sauce. A Mega G.
something like that. Look, they need interior depth. He has clearly had a history of having interior depth. One thing that's been talked about is that a bit of the size for a tackle was the question, which to me screams, hey, great. Means he's a perfect size for a guard. Why not slide him in and see what he can do at guard? I think that's a great
Absolutely.
idea. And again, the experience says that the Bears know what they're doing with that said move. Because again, Tevin Jenkins is the perfect prototypical example of, hey, let's see what happens when when we slide you inside. Oh, damn, he's pretty good. He's actually
Right.
really damn good at guard when he's healthy and in. So I think that's what this move is. In as much as you want to challenge Braxton, I would rather say, hey, let Braxton focus on his job. Let's see if this kid's got what it takes to be our starting opposite side interior guard. Because that's what I want is a good interior guard to finalize the line. It's the last piece I'm worried about.
Right. That's why I didn't understand the whole, well, he can't play tackle. Just stop it. Like, the Bears have proven they have to move guys around. If he's undersized, that means he's gonna play guard. And then that just kind of helps you if somebody does go down, he can just slide into the tackle spot, put
Mm-hmm.
him at left tackle, because guess what? If he's a little undersized, that means he's probably a little fast, has some quick feet from the stuff I was seeing, he's got some quick feet, quick hands. He keeps guys away from the quarterback
Yeah.
because, again, super smart. So he understands where they're going to go and understand this. And um, he has a whole summer to get bigger too. So this whole like, oh, he's undersized, just stop it. Like some of these
I know
people,
he'll be a bit more under the microscope because he's a third round pick, and I think that Pete, like I said, for the Bears' needs, he is going to be basically who they drafted for a need. So, you know, he'll be evaluated for that again because it's an FCS school. You know, that's going to be an instant question because it is a jump. You know, but he has clearly performed very well and is a very athletic human being is the thing at his position for playing tackle. And again, the versatility and history of playing both positions just to me helps the case a lot.
absolutely, absolutely. So that's why, like, at first I was worried people were going to give it like a C. And I don't know if I didn't pay much attention to Bears Twitter the next 2 days because I was out doing things.
Right.
I tried to catch up with it later on. Some were excited, some were not. I don't think people get super excited for offensive linemen unless they're like round one, because that means they're really good in their eyes. But taking offensive linemen at round three, you have to be pretty good at what you
Yeah.
do. And again, Ryan Poles played offensive line. So it's like he understands what he's looking at when he's evaluating. And so it's like, okay, guys, trust Ryan Poles for a little bit. He was with Kansas City Chiefs to build that up. He played offensive line in the NFL for just a very, very small amount of time. He understands it. And it seems like when you watch him talk to these guys on the phone, he's so good at talking to them. And like, so I can only imagine what, like, the interviews were, especially with a guy from Yale who's super smart. Like I can only
Mhm.
imagine what that type of conversation was like. I could never have a conversation with a Yale guy. He would just start talking about things I know nothing about. And I'd be like, yeah, sure, you're right. Sure. I'm going to go back to my cornfields. You got it.
Oh man. Go on down. Move on back down.
So I just
Yeah.
think this is a up, not, I don't know if upgrade's the right word, but it's a good missing piece that they could plug in.
I'm under the impression that it is an upside of finding your starting guard. That's what I think. Or minimum, you have better tackle depth, and if if Braxton Jones does not step up to the plate, like again, some people have said that they feel this is a move to challenge Braxton a little and to see if they can get better production out of his position, then sure, that's fine. I think there's upside for both cases to me personally. I would prefer it's for the guard spot.
Right.
I am wanting it to be a guard conversion really bad, and I am going to play it that way until we see in camp otherwise that they say differently, because they do need a guard. So I feel like that's the best way of doing it, is get a guy that's just at that threshold and just do a Tevin Jenkins, get a big guard,
Yes.
make a big guard that's burly in the middle, beef him up a little bit, let him basically bully people as a tackle, playing and imposing as a guard. That's what I want to see.
I think that's the plan. I think they're not going to sit here and say, we need more tackles. No, you need
No, you
interior.
really need interior linemen. So you can have less speed in pass rushes up the middle, because heaven forbid you you don't want to give up a pass rush up into the center, guard, tackle in the A and B gaps is what I'm trying to say. Steve, you know what I'm talking about. Those are the worst places to get pressure to come from, is the A and B gaps. Edge rushes, it is what it is. They're designed to be that way, but it's harder to go around. It's easier to have a direct route. You want to have beef in the A and B gaps. They can run block. They need someone who can pass block. I'd say a tackle who has a tackle having the prowess of a better pass blocking mind as well is better to put as a guard if you have a chance to convert him to guard.
Absolutely. So these people are like, just stop it. What's a catch, guys?
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
just answer me what a catch.
right. I could be wrong. Feel like there's a logical answer right there, though. It's what I'm saying. Good pickup, though. I think the FCS thing, it's whatever. I like it. There's a lot of potential with that pick, and it fills a need. Always like filling a need. They needed
Right.
They needed a lineman. They got a third round pick at lineman, And yeah, that left 2 other picks on the board for us.
Yeah, and the other need I didn't even pay attention to until somebody told me on Friday night when they were asking me this. They pick up a punter round 4, and when they picked up a punter, I'm like, "Wait, what? That was a need for us?"
That threw me for a loop so hard. But then I remembered after doing a quick read that Torrey Taylor is like legit a freak at the punting position. He was in college, at least.
Well, because Iowa's offense averaged 7 points a game, and
I mean,
so he
sure.
punted a lot. He averaged 48.2 yards per punt. So he had a lot of practice punting because watching the Big Ten, because I'm an Illinois person, Iowa's defense was always really good. Like they had, if you want a linebacker or a corner, you're looking at Iowa because they're going to have a free corner or safety. They're going to have really aggressive linebackers and offensive line. Usually they get decent offensive linemen, but their
Mm-hmm.
offense was just, and I got to be careful how I say this because I would love to talk to Iowa football coaches on here. I got to be careful how I say this.
Oh, well.
They, statistical wise, were not very good, statistic wise. And so this guy had a lot of practice punting the football. And so I guess if you think about it that way, a guy that's just punted for a couple of years and had a lot of practice, he gets you almost 50 yards per punt. That's huge in the NFL to really flip the side of the field. I didn't know this was a need, but because I assumed as soon as I took offensive tackle, they were going to take a defensive lineman,
Mm-hmm.
and then they took a punter. And I, at the in the moment, I said, I swear on everything, if you can't get a good edge rusher later on, I'm going to lose it. You took a punter, and this is nothing against special teams and punters because they are very, very, very essential to the game. You can't win without good special team players. But in the moment, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" But they ranked the pick pretty high because he was, like you said, a freak punter. Like
Yes.
he's got huge legs. He punts it very far. So I mean, I guess that's good. But I love what Caleb Williams said. He's like, I told him you're not going to punt very much.
That was so funny. I'm glad that right away doing that, and I'm hey, for the sake of us all Bears fans everywhere, I hope that's the case. Or if he needs to, it just makes it easier because you want to have someone with a leg like that. Um, yeah, I mean, you read a bit more into it. Punters in the draft, any special teams pickup has to be a freakish athlete or someone who was well accredited pretty much the majority of their college career or coming out the year they're coming in. And
Mhm.
Torrey is that exception. So I'm with you. I went and kind of paused. I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell is this pick? And then it's
Right.
like you read up on it, and again, I've my job having to work a little bit next to the Big Ten network. It kind of catches. It's like, oh yeah, duh, this guy's like legit. You win a Ray Guy Award, you're putting up numbers. But again, 48.2 yards a punt in college is I mean that's impressive stat line right
Oh
there.
yeah.
That does really well in the NFL by itself. So, and the thing is when it comes to special teams guys like punters and kickers, generally they don't have their best leg coming out of college. They get better as they age a lot of times going
Right.
in. So this is incredible for that. So it's like we're talking ourselves in this, but like it does help, I would say it instantly upgrades position. I know they're saying Trenton Gill's tenure basically is over in Chicago, which it is now. But no, it's good. It's good. I'll take it. It's a best on the board position thing. I think is what was being done here, and should reap some pretty solid rewards. Hopefully.
Right. And because you have to evaluate, like, if we still do have a position or a need, is there enough available later on? So they have to take that into consideration. Like, if we do take this guy at this
Mm-hmm.
point, can we still get somebody else in that position later on? And they did. They absolutely did in the fifth round, getting Austin Booker from Kansas, a defensive edge rusher that the Bears really need because 2 years ago they couldn't pressure the quarterback if he ran up to them. Like it was just bad. And then last year was
Yeah.
bad until Eberflus took over and then started to figure out a way to kind of rush the quarterbacks, but it wasn't consistent play. And this might not even be a guy that starts, like you mentioned before. maybe before we started this, just getting him in there, being a guy, he's not huge. Like if you see him, he's not like this huge guy, but he was able to have a great year at Kansas, be part of
Mm-hmm.
that rebuild, and he can, if he is athletic enough, he could be a defensive end that drops back into coverage sometimes, like just in the flats. He was able to get pressure on the quarterback. This past year, he had 9 sacks, 12 tackles for loss. So that just shows like the type of speed he can bring. Um, Last year, he could have been a late first round pick if he would have gone. So I think that was the only knock. But that just kind of shows the um, athleticism and capability that he does have, you know, to come to the Bears. And he may not start, but he's a rotational piece that you can have. Like if it's 3rd and 6 and he's super fast, yeah, let's put this guy in and see if he can't get pressure, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Be a stand-up defensive end to really confuse the defense. So I mean, they picked the punter. They were able to find a guy later on. He'll probably rotate in as a rookie, and then the bigger he gets, the faster he gets, could move his way into starting. And he's young; he's 21, so he is young when you look at that.
See, reading up this, was it last year he would have gone, or this or next year? Because I've got the quote from Daniel Jeremiah saying it's next year he would have gone
Oh,
as a late
next year.
first
Sorry,
rounder,
next year.
which to me bodes better because I think that there's at least room to grow, but an upside sense, you know. Um,
I was still trying to
yeah.
imagine how to say the guy's last name in my head when I said that, so I wasn't
Oh, yeah,
thinking.
it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah, it's a tough last name. Look, they got the piece they needed. Can people argue it was later than they expected? Yeah, I mean you can. You certainly can. But I think what's being done here is if I'm going to gauge the Ryan Poles possible telepathy that I'll have to read his mind, I am going to guess that he is very confident DeMarcus Walker is going to pick up the slack this year
Yep.
and is going to be a much more viable opposite edge to Montez Sweat. I didn't. The production last year wasn't there, and credit. I'm wondering if it's because they really wanted to stay with Ngakwe for the majority of the season until
Yeah.
injuries proceeded. So this year, I think if they are giving DeMarcus Walker the definitive, you are the guy. We aren't going to have to worry about rotations as much. Then maybe that changes a few things. But otherwise, the upside is rotation to start. Maybe he shows flashes coming in and develops up a bit more. The main knocks are mostly like many other rookie prospects at this level of the draft all the time. He needs to bulk up. You hear that a lot of times. It's like if the kid can bulk up muscle, trust me, if he's committed to the weight room, dude's going to bulk up. So,
Yes.
it's an NFL program. Those trainers are on. It's like college from what I've ever seen. The trainers are on you every day with a regimen and a nutrition guide. If you ain't following it, they're going to report back to coaches anyway. And clearly you're not going to perform. They're there to do their jobs. The best of the best get the best out of you, and you have to give them back equally as much. So, he's going to have some uphill battles. Clearly, like we're seeing with the prospects are saying, they feel like he is moving in the direction of being a high caliber talent that could have been going higher up. It's just that he's considered a bit greenhorn is how I can put it.
Right.
Definitely I will agree with evaluations. He's not starting this year. Definitely is going to have to go through and earn his stripes, but I want to get him involved in seeing him in the rotation on the edge and what he can do. It's no like 9 sacks in a college season is no slouch, by the way, in the Big 12. Kansas was a damn good team, and part of the reason why is because their defense was holding up their end of the bargain a lot of times during the year. Considering Kansas's offense went through and was ravaged by the QB position by the end of the season,
Right.
and still performed pretty well. That defense held up and earned its stripes. Booker was one of the most consistent presences on that defensive front seven. So, yeah, late round pickup. There's a lot of upside to it. Again, this is for the limited amount of picks. This is one of the better drafts in the last maybe 2 to 3 years where I've felt like, oh yeah, I can see the vision here.
Right.
I'm not
Well,
I'm not lost at some piece or choice.
because of the free agency picks or the stuff they did in free agency. I always
That
look at
too.
that. Like, if you're looking at overall drafts, I love the Arizona Cardinals draft. They had a ton of picks, and the guys they got, I was like, oh my God, like they got a ton of guys. And I was bragging a little bit. They took 2 Illinois guys back to back, and I'm like, all right, here we go. But with the limited amount of picks, with what they did in free agency, how it molds together, to me, on paper, it looks great. Like you have to feel pretty
Hmm.
good about. I thought they had a decent draft last year too. So for Ryan Poles last year and this year, looking at how he can pick up guys. Now, I don't care about the free agency stuff and the trades they do during the season because those are, you know, on a prayer type of thing.
Right.
Those a lot of people do that, and a lot of it doesn't work out. But when you're looking at who they've picked up, who played well last year that's coming back, and addressing pieces. It's not like they ignored the pieces that they had to do. We
Oh
could sit
no.
there and say, "Oh, they need an edge rusher," and they go get another guy and we're like, "Wait, don't you need that?" No, they knew exactly what they had to address. They got it. There could still be some undrafted guys they continue to sign, and they could pan out to be good. And they're not done yet. I don't know if they're exactly done yet, but with Booker, I think that's just going to be a great piece. And the more he plays, the more he's out there. And you have to be excited if they were like, oh, if he would have came back next year, he was just going to get better. So that just tells me that if he gets to an NFL team, we should start to see that progression in an NFL stature and do pretty well. So I'm excited for Booker. I'm excited for the Taylor, the punter. Hinsdale Central guy is what I'm going to call him because I just blanked on his name. I, with Undunze, with Caleb Williams, I think for the limited amount of picks, you have to give this a really good grade, like A minus B plus somewhere. I'm okay with either one. If someone says B plus just because of whatever, cool. I'm living with that. If you tell me A minus, I'm totally agreeing with you. It's not an A plus, but you have to give this a high grade for the Bears. They didn't. Don't you remember years back, every time the draft comes, like the Bears are going to screw this up somehow? Like they're just going to.
Oh, yeah. You think about it a little bit.
And then this year, I didn't think they were going to screw it up. Like going into it, I was like, oh, they're not going to screw this up. Like it was one of the first times where I'm like, I remember always being glued to the draft and just like they're going to screw this up. Just watch it; they're going to screw it up. I was okay walking away from the draft, and if I found out later on Twitter or something who they took, I was okay. I was like, they're not going to screw this up. I'm very confident.
No, that they nailed what they needed to get. We talked like last show. We talked. We could have talked about the potential Dallas Turner at number 9, but I don't disagree with Rome Odunze. I still think that was a solid choice. And I mean, the day 2 and day 3 options here, like I said, all the needs got filled
Right.
that were primary needs. You can always have extra and evaluations on CB or secondary to me. But I mean, beyond that, like I don't really see too many things Chicago needs. Now it's just go out and win, go out and execute what is necessary, especially on the offensive end. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, another receiver added to the puzzle, and a veteran receiver, one of the best in the last decade, to be part of that puzzle. Someone that still has gas in the tank and might not be relied on as much, but is very much a reliable target in that receiving quarter where you don't have to just lean on DJ Moore. That's the thing. Top 10 tight end. 2 running backs that I think will get utilized way better this year, and one especially that I think will get utilized way better in Chicago than he was in Philadelphia. So
Absolutely.
It's winning time. It's time to go win games. There's nothing else I see that's needed. It's all about the talent and the execution of the coaching staff now. Excuses for pieces, the little that was still remaining during last season, are officially over. We're here at win now mode.
Right. Like I was telling that to a guy on Friday. I said they're looking to win now. Like the rebuild kind of has to be done, right? Like he
I mean,
scraped it.
you can't go anywhere else. That's the thing. It's hard to go anywhere else.
Right.
I mean, yeah, maybe you. I guess like when we talk the edge position, everyone wanted to like, yeah, you see all those fun little those fantasies of like when someone's available on the market, like, oh my God, look, Trey Hendrickson is demanding a trade, and it's like, I mean, yeah, you could in theory throw more capital at that, but then you're like really saying we're win now. We just kind of sold more of our extra pieces down the way, you know, if you wanted to do something like that. And then you'd be putting salary cap on there as well, because I don't think you pick him up for
Right.
just the short term. So,
But on paper and thinking about the season, there are two people with the most pressure on them. It's Caleb Williams and Eberflus. I think those are the
yep.
two guys are going to have the most pressure because I think the receivers are set. You have a tight end that really has a couple years ago. I don't know if we would be saying that about Cole Kmet because he was very like raw and like all that stuff. He's
Mm-hmm.
really emerged. Um, I guess you could put pressure on the offensive line, but I think they'll be okay. Um, if if Eberflus does
Doug
not,
Eberflus.
I don't know where that came from. Uh, if he does not coach well, if the defense doesn't perform well, if the team overall, his seat's gonna. I call it. We've just put the water in the bowl and it's on the stove. Like it's not boiling yet. It's starting to warm a little bit. That's kind of where he's at right now,
That's a good way to put it.
especially with the on paper type of thing. Like it needs to happen now. And if Caleb Williams doesn't perform well, because if he does not perform well, we could already hear it. Well, Justin Fields would have done this, or Justin Fields, like it's already going to happen.
Oh
Um,
yeah, those say those bullets are getting loaded right now.
oh yeah, they're cleaning them
They're
right
just on
now.
standby.
Oh, oh yeah, it's all there. um, and then you're like wasting these wide receiver talents and stuff like that if they do not perform well. But I think overall this feels better than when they did draft Justin Fields. Like the only knocks we're having on Caleb Williams is his dress and his nails. Like the
Mm.
outfit pictures continue to come up. And even yes, I'm looking at the outfits and I'm like, what? Like what the hell is that? But I could say the same thing about NBA players. You see the NBA players, they wear these crazy things.
I mean, let's not
And
forget that Jimmy Butler straightened out his hair and put in mascara for a photo shoot. So, it's not out of the realm. Athletes will be athletes, man. It is what it is. It's like I said last show. As long as you're not an asshole, and as long as you're not doing illegal and terrible things,
right.
live your life is all I'm going to say. But yeah, like people are still going to complain. It's just how it is.
Right. And I might be that person if he doesn't do well. I might be that person that says, "Well, look where." Like I already know that's who I am. But again, I don't care either. Like if that's how you want to live your life and you're not hurting anybody and you're a leader, like I think the reason why they bring that up is this a leader in the locker room? That's their big thing. Is you know if you're acting this way outside of the locker room, are you actually a leader in the locker room? Are they going to respect you? And this could be something learned. Like you were just in college, you were making money with name, image, and likeness. It's kind of a free for all there and that stuff. You come to the NFL. What's good for him is to have veteran guys like DJ Moore
Yeah.
could put him in check. Keenan Allen could put him into check. I think Cole Kmet can put himself up there and kind of put those guys in check. And so when you have guys like that, maybe I'm just on the pod. I'm gonna be way more positive about this than Justin Fields. And so hopefully this turns into a leadership thing and he can go out there and able to look at guys and command the locker room and the huddle. And if he does, I do not care what you do. I could care less. And so I already know that. So
just just deliver wins, man. I mean that's it. That's all you got to do. You know. Well, I mean, like I said, besides my other 2 points, that's the thing that we're asking. Deliver the stuff we've been waiting for. Deliver good performances. Hell, the minimum. Target the 4,000 yards passing season thing that comes up now every year. I don't expect it as a rookie. But there are always exceptions. And the hype around it is certain around Caleb is that he is the type of guy that could hit that number.
Right.
We'll see. I more care about the wins. That's really what I want. A
Right.
consistent QB play that delivers us wins to get back to postseason football and discussing like how close we are actually, not getting back to a threshold that starts meeting the minimum standard we want. Is
Right.
all.
And I would like to think Caleb Williams is a little bit smart because he got into USC. So I would like to sit there and say, like, he has a little bit of something to him to be smart. And I will say this, compared to how he talked during the college season to now, he is really getting coached up on
Mm-hmm.
how to act a little bit and what to say. And, you know, the interview afterwards, he seems to be excited to come to the Bears and expects big things. So if he's already expecting big things and is striving to do that, hopefully it works out. My fear is if things don't go well, how is he going to act? Is he going to be able? Because I do give Justin Fields credit in that sense of I always said that about Fields. Like he always said the right things. He had like one or two slip ups, but that's okay. He seemed to have a leadership type of thing and toughness. So even when things were going bad, and so if you have a couple games where you're struggling, which is probably going to happen as a rookie, how does he overcome that and adapt that? But again, when you have veteran guys around you that they're building this for, and a veteran offensive coordinator, hopefully that overcomes some of that stuff to help him
Right.
succeed. So on paper, the Bears are looking to compete in that NFC North, and they're looking, you know, I think if we would ask a Bears player and we would say, okay, you guys are looking like a wild card team, they might get mad about that. They might be like, no, we're looking to like clinch a spot.
Oh, of course. Look, players are going to always want to aim for the higher goal. Even coaches, you should know that
Right.
right away. That's guaranteed. But like looking on the outside a little bit, like I said, to play a wild card should be the goal this year. Like the one that you're mainly wanting. Bonuses will be getting a division title or trying to secure like a top seed from that said title. Like get a playoff berth. Like that is the minimum you have to achieve. And especially if we're talking Matt Eberflus on the minimum or on the little bit of a hot seat he does have to start the season, because there is one. I know it won't be as talked about as much given the 7-10 finish. Caleb Williams now joining the fray, Shane Waldron being the OC and all the like, and that the roster's looking pretty damn good, and he made a
Right.
better defensive effort calling plays last year when he took over. That seat's still there. It's year 3. So it's go time. It's just
Right.
like players. You give coaches, at least most of the time, unless it's their complete public train wreck or the organization was being dishonest in the first place and knew it was a one and done, you give them usually 3 seasons, about that range, maybe 3 or 4, give or take, depending on how patient the organization is or how if they don't like doing coaching searches like art, like we've heard in the past from several other organizations, and then they move on. So hey,
Mhm.
it's year 3. This is we are expecting return on playoff. It's gone up. It's been a year-over-year improvement. Now you can't go too much more without saying we need to see playoff berth. 7
Right.
and 10 is basically just under 500. So improvements added this offseason. No reason to be around there again.
Right. And then you get a shiny new stadium in a couple years. Like you have
Yep.
to perform now. If
I'm
they're gonna
saying, man.
if they're gonna pay that off, I was just talking to my wife yesterday. I was like, yeah, it's like $5 billion. The Bears gonna put up $2 to $3 billion. And the first thing we said was, it must be nice just to have that money to say this is what we're gonna put up.
Just to slap down, like the fact that the Bears organization can just slap down $2 billion easy and be like, here's our cut.
Oh yeah. And then how are they gonna pay that off? They're gonna raise ticket prices and stuff. And I'm like, well, the Bears have to
Yeah.
win. The Bears are gonna have
Well,
to
I
win.
know, I know. You got to win now. New stadium. I mean, it already was kind of weird talking new stadium when you were taking even worse seasons in 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Now I mean, hey, now we got to start winning now. Like, get so. I mean, better, the goodwill has kind of come back. Like I said, Caleb Williams, a new quarterback, brings goodwill, peace, and kumbaya for the most part, at least for a year. You know, or
Yep.
multiple, depending on how the rookie season goes. So there's that. That helps.
I did see a
Helps a
funny
lot.
I think I saw a funny meme from like the Packers or something that said the Bears said new era, and they were like, "Oh, you've had 3 new eras," or something like that, 3
No,
or 4 new eras. And
I've
I was
had
like, "You're right."
I have my buddy who's a Dallas fan, and something similar along that line where it's like, oh, here we go again. See you at the draft in like 3 years.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. They're like, "I'll see you picking a quarterback again in 3 to 4 years," and I'm like,
Right.
"Hopefully, it's only because he does really well and he leaves somewhere else to get more money."
Please. Oh man. No, actually, no. Stay. I'm hoping. Like I said, I'm hoping he works out and he is the one. He is the prophet that brings us to salvation.
But I am going to give him 3 years, just like Justin Fields. Give him 3 years.
Every QB does. You give every one of them 3 because, like we've talked on this show, you know what you're getting by 3 seasons.
Mhm.
It's not going to improve that much, is all I can
No.
tell you. And credit, there's a lot of Bears contingent that's watching Justin Fields this season to see if it really was an organizational thing that ran him
Oh,
out
I
of
am
town.
too.
That
I'm gonna be
bad circumstance. That type of deal.
oh, like, you know how they have things locked and loaded? I've got
Mhm.
things locked and loaded, and so if he doesn't play this year because Russell Wilson he did not have a bad season last year. If he comes in and does well and Justin Fields never touches the field, I'm gonna find the tweet that says Justin Fields was supposed to be the starter, and I'm gonna be like, "What happened?" I already got things locked and loaded. Or if he does play and he does the exact same stuff, I'm locked and loaded.
If I were Pittsburgh, I'll be honest, and I know this will be again that'll be with the notion that you know it'll be an I told you so. Pittsburgh, I almost guarantee wants Justin Fields to be the one that works out because of the youth and the
Yes.
fact that he is very much the younger and coming more into his prime quarterback, and that it was just the fact he was with Luke Getzey and in a rebuilding team for 3 seasons and never really got a fair shake. You know, that's what I think Pittsburgh wants. The consolidation prize is that Russell Wilson continues to be who he was last year and that he was thrown to the wayside because of a very, very expensive contract that
Oh yeah.
luckily the Walmart CEO can afford very easily to just eat because he's the richest owner in the NFL.
Right.
So, you
That's nothing.
know, yeah, it's freaking pennies on the dollar to have the most chewed away cap or thrown away cap space in NFL history. Never mind that.
Can they just give me that money? I would live forever.
I know. Like
I can
you and
retire
I
right
tell you what,
now.
you and I split. And we then
I'm
go on
s
the road and we do this for a living,
Yeah.
or I guess a hobby that we don't have to do anything else for, and we can just focus on this.
Oh my gosh. I retire. I'd send some of the money to give to a bookie and just be like, "Hey, let me make interest off this money, the rest of it."
Hey, look, my dad's retiring. We can get him as the third member of the trio and have a grand old time.
Oh, that'd be great. Have a staff to set everything up and you just talk. It'd be like Pat
See what
McAfee
I'm
show just on the
saying?
road.
See what I'm saying? Get ourselves a Greg Bragg, except that we definitely would need to. Except that I don't know if he would be right away the guy talking or not. But get a Greg Bragg. You want a Greg Bragg on your side.
Oh, we'd be coming after CHGO. Be like, we're gonna hire that guy. We'll be able to outpay you for him.
We
'Cause
need
what
more
was
Greg Braggs in the world, by the way, man. That I love seeing that he just keeps going up, up, and up in the fandom. Like it is impressive meteoric climb.
I know his positivity about the Bears is unmatched.
Hmm.
And like he had the Caleb Williams jersey, USC jersey on already, and he was pumped up. And I'm like, man, I wish I was kind of like him. But I try to be more realistic on things, I guess.
Maybe less pessimism will come when we see wins. That's kind of how it works. Wins kind of cure all ill will in a way.
Yeah, I think I'm just more positive with Caleb Williams because he's more of a pocket passer and stuff than Justin Fields was, and
I mean,
that's kind
yeah,
of what we need. And I said it last time. He was in an offense that was very pass heavy, but they ran the ball a lot too. But in an offense that was pass heavy, and the way they read it is super easy. And I know the NFL is more complicated, but if you learned how to throw into open spots like his type of offense was, hopefully that can translate better to the NFL. And I'm not saying Justin Fields didn't have a strong arm, but like I said, he threw way less passes than Caleb Williams, and
No, yeah. I mean, he's the dude's got a cannon. The critique was never about the downfield game because that's what he did at Ohio State and he excelled at Ohio State. It was always the mid-range and decision-making aspects when it came crunch time.
mhm.
And, marginal gains, but not enough to justify avoiding a possible and credit, as I will agree with some other folks, unfairly compared to Patrick Mahomes' generational talent.
Yes, that's exactly what they did.
Because that is the type of pressure you absolutely do not want to be seeing year one. But that's where we're at. It was amazing because that was also part of the arguments between the Fields Caleb crowds was, is this guy really Patrick Mahomes? Like, well, we don't know. I mean, there's a lot of signs that he clearly could develop to something special like a Patrick Mahomes, you
Can,
know.
can we stop comparing everybody to Patrick Mahomes?
Well,
Because
Steve, Patrick Mahomes is the new Brady. I mean, without
oh
Brady here, we
god,
just got to. It's the new Manning. We got to compare something. That's got to be the 10th.
god.
That's got to be the poll. You got to look at the poll and be like, what does that look like? Does that look like this? Is that
I
what this
know,
looks
but
like?
we got to stop comparing people to Patrick Mahomes because not everybody's going to have the weapons around them like that. Not everybody's going to have Andy Reid calling plays. Not everybody's going to have all that. Uh, I know. I guess you could say that about the Bears now. Like, look at the weapons Caleb Williams has, but we don't have Andy Reid. Like, no offense to anybody. Like, you don't stop trying to recreate the same recipe in the kitchen without the cook. Like, it just doesn't work. And that's just putting pressure on guys that does not need to be there. Like, oh, we're going to compare you to Patrick Mahomes and stuff like that. No, don't just stop. Like, just let them be themselves. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know we all can do it because we're not the ones there. Like, we can compare, and that's just the way they do it. Is like, well, what does he look like? Well, he kind of looks like this guy, like Justin Fields is kind of like a Michael Vick. Like, I get it. Like, we can do that, but
Right.
people on Twitter need to stop saying like this is the next Patrick Mahomes. Well, just stop it. Give him 3 years, then you could sit there and say, "Oh, maybe he is because he just runs a little bit outside the pocket, creates time, boom, gets the ball." You know, but the stuff Patrick Mahomes does is maybe once in a lifetime. But again, I'm in the camp that says Patrick Mahomes is good, but the reason why he's good is because of these other things. But hopefully, that's what the Bears can do for Williams. True offense coordinator, defensive minded head coach is going to take over the defense and get that under control. Hopefully, that's what happens.
Looking at you, Shane Waldron, you are the. If it's not Eberflus, I'm the one that's going to. I will have you as the most under the microscope coaching staff member of 2024. Development. You're the guy that leads the development of what is possibly the franchise's savior this time around. So, ball's in your court.
No
And a
pressure.
loaded offense, by the way, is in your court on paper.
Yeah.
So, what do you do with it?
No
That's the
pressure.
question.
No pressure.
Yeah, no worries, man. 7-10 record last year. A lot of hype coming into this season. No worries. Just got to
No
deliver.
worries. No worries at all. But guess what? That's why they're in the NFL. This is why they want it.
Look, I do want to before we even wrap up any of the talk here today, just because final draft stuff. I mean, look, I know we talk Bears, but I mean, I got to ask you, any picks stand out that just surprised you? Period.
Any picks that surprised me? I keep saying it. JJ McCarthy going as high as he did compared to what was talked about with him. Jane Daniels going at number 2, I thought was a huge jump. That Michael Penix pick is gonna look at people and say, "Oh, like a guy that I thought should have gone higher, and because I'm an Illinois guy, was Newton. Like that, he's a defensive lineman freak, and he went way
Second
lower
round
than
ain't
I
too
thought.
bad, but yeah.
I know, but I just thought he would go way higher than that. I don't know if any really like stuck out and surprised me.
The one that I do want to highlight, just because of like, I don't know why I kind of get like San Francisco stuff out here for some reason. It's actually Ricky Pearsall coming out there from Florida, because the question I think the debate that's going to happen over the next month or so is which receiver do they move on from that's going to need a paycheck? Because Ayuk was supposed to be the one they felt was going to get traded, and a lot of people, there were some people thinking he was going to get traded during the draft.
Right.
But I've even seen lately, Steve, that there's reports that they might keep Ayuk, but trade Debo Samuel instead.
Now, why would is it because of injury problems?
I think I'm possible. I mean, I think one of them's going to have to get satisfied. The other's going to have to go out of town. It's similar to how Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, one of them's going to need, both are going to be demanding big paychecks. One in the organization is going to have to pay up or have to let one go away. That's why Higgins got the franchise tag and why he wants out of town.
Right. You know what? San Francisco could be a mess here eventually.
I mean, kind of riding on borrowed time when you're starting to get a lot of your core roster aging.
Yeah, that's why I don't know. I think they're going to be good next year, but I don't know if they're going to make the Super Bowl again because they're aging.
I'm not feeling it. I mean, the division is still possible. I think LA is, after last year, the way they finished, I think they're very much farther back on track than many people expected after that. After one Super Bowl year, like just complete train wreck from injuries and whatnot.
Right.
Because they were wild card. They were pretty. They were wild card that was within one decent drive of upsetting Detroit, and we wouldn't be talking about the Lions being on the doorstep of going to a Super Bowl this season. So,
right.
I'm very fascinated how that division goes because the Rams do feel like they're up, and I actually love some of the moves the Rams made this draft in particular. I really do. Blake Corum, I was wondering where he would go, and I'm glad. I actually think LA is a great pickup or a great destination for him. Absolutely.
Real quick, I saw this from Twitch. Truth be told, I think the Bears did a decent job. One thing I don't get is if they wanted to get a higher pick, why not just lose one less game than Carolina and get the second pick? They could have had Williams and Marvin Harrison. If it was me, I would have made sure that we lose and need to obtain the first two picks and be set. Listen,
I'm not. You go ahead. You go ahead.
It's hard for you. This probably happens, but I don't like it. How can you be a GM or a coach to go to these NFL guys that get paid money and are competing to say, like, make sure we lose?
Do you really want to go into the taboo of basically doing a pay to lose type of situation?
Like, I get what this person's saying. Everybody on Twitter said it, like, oh, we got to lose. Like, we're tanking. Make sure you lose and get this pick. And I know there's some realistic things to that, but, like, you can't, like, if an owner and a GM came to the head coach and the players said, hey, guys, make sure this day that we're playing, make sure that we look good, but then we lose at the last second. Like, make sure we do that. And I think that's a horrible thing to do because you would lose the locker room because they'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, we're NFL players.
Well, let's not forget, too, the NFL will have a say in that. Remember, Miami was investigated aggressively over accusations of tanking.
Right.
Because it's a competitive issue thing. Like, if you're throwing games, that can change the landscape of a playoff scenario all over the NFL.
Right. So, I get what that person said. I get what Twitter says when that happens. Yes. Would we have loved to have Marvin Harris Jr.? Yes. But guess what? I think Oduzze is still a good receiver. Like, we didn't miss out on, like, a good receiver, and
I think the consolidation prize is a pretty damn good consolidation prize, like not even all things considered.
Right. So I get what people say when this happens, but like now you're just trying to live in a world where we all with cupcakes and rainbows and unicorns and stuff like that. Like that just doesn't happen. And even a high school, if I walked into a high school team and said, make sure we lose this game, like you would just immediately lose all credibility. And and then like might as well just cancel the game then. Like don't even bother. And so I think it sometimes happens. Maybe the players themselves say, I don't know, but like, I don't think you could look at people in the NFL and say lose because what's the NFL stand for? Not for long. And so these guys aren't going to waste time saying, well, what if a player was on a contract year and he goes, if I have like one bad game or two, I don't get paid here, I don't get paid somewhere else, I can get traded, I have to uplift my family. So like I just don't think that's realistic. So I just wanted to point that out at the end here. Like I get it. It would in a perfect world you would love to get two offensive linemen, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., and blah blah blah. But that just is not what happens. That's why it's the NFL. That's why it's sports. You have to. The Bears did fine, so we don't need to sit there and say, well, if we had Marvin Harrison Jr., no. We have a good core of receivers. They have to have one of the best receiving rooms in the NFL, I think, like a top 5-10 in a wide receiver room. So it's going to be on paper and the way they performed in their past, it should be fine.
Yeah.
So it'll be okay.
You can always have wishful thinking. I know there were people that wanted to see if maybe they could get Harrison as well. And hell, I mean, credit before the trade that took place to send Justin Fields to Pittsburgh happened, the leading theory or one of the leading items was, well, we'll just trade back, get Marvin Harrison or something, and like let everyone else fend for themselves, and then we'll have a bunch of other picks. But didn't work out that way. And again, I think part of that influence, clearly the QB was the main decision. But like, look, you look at the rest of the field with these picks. Odunze was up there. It was like him and Neighbors were considered the number 2 and like heavily contested number 2, right behind MVJ. And I'm going to be frank. I thought Neighbors went stupid high if we're talking special like circumstance, because I thought the Giants were going to be sold on picking a QB, and they did not. And that threw me for a loop. So, well, I mean, he's still a great talent. I was just surprised to see him at 6. I thought he was going to be the third or second one and that Chicago would be the next one picking up a receiver. Not Chicago be the third team off the board with a receiver in the draft, which is the surprising part. So, Odunze is great. And again, there's plenty of film with him and Michael Penix. Odunze is not just a guy that, you have to have a perfect ball placement or he just has it where it's open coverage. He's been great in competitive one-on-one scenarios. He does great with, at least from what I've seen, chemistry-wise, he's great at adapting to the passer that he is working with, which is huge if you're having two rookies come in and they're already helping each other out. So I like the kid. I really do. Yep. And he's not – the thing is as well, he doesn't have to be the solution to that problem. The solutions to that core already exist in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Cole Kmet. He gets to be the third option and learn and be able to more openly and freely get targets away from guys that are going to take an aggro targets already to start the season. So
absolutely,
it's a great pickup even in that sense, because it's not like Marvin Harrison Jr. where like you're almost expecting he's going to be like a 1A, 1B. Like he's going to get basically pressured and defenses will cue in on him every single snap.
Absolutely.
Odunze gets to have a little bit taken off of him and can be more of that kind of open field and kind of like hopefully more of like reading the QB's stress levels type of receiver for bailing people out. So that's what I want to see.
Right. All right, Zach, we covered it. We're the Bears should hopefully make the playoffs next year. They will. More
of a must, really, but they will make the playoffs. I have good feelings right now. They will.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here, everybody. Check out Zach's stuff, his podcast. He does like 18 podcasts and stuff. So you got to check out that. So many. Like and subscribe to this channel. There's a playlist called Bear Down where all these are at. Like, subscribe, check out on Spotify and Apple and all that good stuff. Lots of short clips coming out. I've been pumping them out like crazy. So check all that out. Thanks for everybody watching or listening. We'll see you guys next time.
Mm-hmm.